Wake up your morning in a brand new way with the positive people, places, events, and things in and around your neighborhood and around the world. No matter where you live, your mornings are about to get better. It's the refreshing way to start your day. No doom or gloom, just bright sunshine no matter what the weather. Metro Magazine with Bonnie McDaniel. Inspiring, informative, intelligent, Ion. Positively the best way to start your morning. Good morning and welcome to Metro Magazine. We're here to talk about a very serious subject, something that affects millions of Americans each and every day. We have with us in the studio this morning a gentleman by the name of E.K. Ray, and he's written a very compelling book, actually a book that chronicles his experience, his journey with diabetes. So please join me in welcoming E.K. Ray. E.K., thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Glad to be here, Bonnie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've been having a very interesting conversation off camera because you have quite a background in television production. And so I was asking you off camera also, how did you come by the name of EK? And you said that there was somebody else and you had to settle with your initials for your name.
Yeah, very much. There was, as I went to go join the union, at the time I worked for CBS, and there was another gentleman by the name of Eric Ray who worked for ABC. So I couldn't join the union under my own name, so I had to break it down and use my initials, and it's just stuck. And that's how everybody knows me throughout the industry is E.K. Ray.
Yeah, and you know, it's so interesting that you wrote this book, first of all. And when I first received it, my package in the mail, I was thinking, how many people do I know with diabetes? And it frightened me because the number is huge.
Yes.
And the other thing that occurred to me, because on a very personal note, my brother had diabetes and didn't know it for the longest of time.
That's why it's called the silent killer.
Yeah. So talk about that, and why is it that people tend to ignore some of the signs?
Well, again, its name is called the silent killer because it works from the inside out, where it eats your inside, your systems. Basically, what happens is that for type 2, there are two types. There's type 1. And there's
now, is that
type 2.
the one that's inherited, basically? The type 1?
Type 1, yes. Type 1 is pretty much you're kind of born to it. Basically, your pancreas doesn't work at all. So type 2 is basically. So
go back for a second. So people who have type 1 diabetes, and a lot of children are stricken with that type of diabetes.
Yes.
So they're born with a pancreas that doesn't work?
It doesn't work. And maybe for the first few months or so it's working, maybe for the first couple of years. But it's mostly it happens to them between the ages of 3, and now it's actually been extended to 30, 31, 32. So then from 31, 32 on up, that's considered adult onset, which is type 2.
Okay.
And that's mostly brought on upon because bad diet, not eating appropriately. And the thing is, you don't know your pancreas is not working. It's not generating the insulin that you need to survive. But you're eating bad and you're not exercising. So you're making it work more than what it can, and it just breaks down. It just pretty much stops. And therefore, you need insulin in order to survive, in order for you to live. In my case, same thing. I was working, constantly going 24/7. I ate fast food. If there was a Chinese place on the way.
And you know, not to interrupt you, you bring up a very interesting point, because if you think about the average working person, they're looking for something that's quick.
Yes.
That tastes pretty good.
Yes.
And so eating healthy is not something that is in the back of their mind. And fast foods is probably one of the worst things you can eat. So talk about that for a minute.
It's quick and it's easy. There was a guy I used to work with, and on his way home, he would call his wife. She worked as well. The kids were on their way home. They would go. He was like, I will stop by Popeyes and pick up something to eat, or I'll stop by and get a pizza on the way home. And yeah, I get it. We're busy, you know, especially if you're a family. The wife is working, the husband's working, kids are at school, everybody's going. There's a lot happening, but you want to feed your family, you want to take care of them, and you figure the best way, and you still try to have that family time together. So it's quick and easy to go by a store and pick up something that's for everybody, and it's cheap too as well. But the downside to that is you're not eating healthy. You're eating processed foods, and it doesn't work well with your body. It's basically you're eating chemicals because that's what they're putting in the foods. When you think about food, when you buy stuff, when milk, you can go to the store and buy milk. It's been pasteurized. It can last for months.
I know. Isn't that scary?
It's very scary when Natural milk is like, oh, it shouldn't be that long. A couple of weeks, maybe a week or
You
so.
You want to hear something funny? I do a lot of entertaining. And I'll leave the name of the brand out, but I bought some cheese. It was a soft cheese with herbs and all of that. And sometimes I cheat. Most of the time I like to make my own, but it's good to have around.
Yeah.
And I had someone over for dinner last evening, and I'm like, oh, I need to make some munchies so that, while I'm getting dinner done. And I pulled one of the containers out of the refrigerator, and I'm thinking, when did I buy this? And I looked, and I had opened it, and it was 2013 was on the label. I was like,
wow.
Oh my God, this stuff should be really bad, and it wasn't. And
yeah.
So talk about the preservatives and things that they typically put in foods and how that is so bad.
Yeah, it's bad for you from the standpoint that just the cheese you mentioned, if that's living that long a period of time, just think it's going to live that long inside your body before your body digests it.
Oh,
so,
gosh.
I don't know if you've ever gone to McDonald's or whatever and you've gotten French fries or a burger. I'm sorry if I said the name out there, but it is what it is.
It's a very popular fry.
Yeah. And they are good. I've had my fair share. But you can go back a couple of days later and it's still there. It's still in its same form. And that's sitting inside your body.
Yeah.
So, and that's not good for you. So just like if you eat beef, it takes about 2 weeks for your body to process it and get it out of your system. So imagine how long that processed food will take to get out of your body. So if just beef itself, and I just mean a nice good steak, not a burger from one of those fast food places. So that's just, it's unbelievable how long it will take for the process to get through there. And then if you have diabetes and your body's not working the appropriate way, so if it normally takes you 2 weeks to get rid of something in your body, it's going to take me 4 weeks.
Wow.
So it's even a longer process, and it's even worse on my insides.
So talk to me. What led you to write this book?
For me, I was working
And
crazy.
You can see the cover there.
Yeah, I was just working like crazy and didn't realize how big I had gotten. I had gotten over 400 pounds.
Wow. And you're a tall man, so.
Yeah, I'm about 6'3" and a half. So I was able to hide it okay, but all my shirts were always big, never tucked in. And I was working an event for the Creative Coalition. And I took a couple of photos and I saw myself and I said, whoa, what's going on here? And I was like, okay, well, we need to do something or whatever, buy bigger clothes. That's not the answer. But it had gotten to the point where I wanted to go on vacation with a friend. And I said, okay, well, I could stand to lose a couple of pounds. So I started eating, it was a pineapple and strawberry diet.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm one of those people who does not believe in dieting.
No, I don't do it anymore.
Dieting is like the worst thing you can. That's
exactly.
my personal opinion. Not a knock on anybody with a diet out there that they're pushing, but I work better just eating healthy.
Yes,
Yeah.
But I'm on the right page now. But at that time, I thought that's what I needed to do.
Pineapple and strawberry.
Yeah,
I'm trying to imagine that. Okay.
It was just crazy, and I thought I was going to lose the weight for it. And I started feeling bad, and it really started going downhill. It was taking me forever to get up to go to the office. My alarm clock would go off at like 4:45. I wouldn't get out of it got me to the point I wouldn't get out of my place until almost 10 or 11.
So it was the diet that kind of triggered something in your body?
It sent it over because I was already having issues. I was a diabetic and I didn't know I was.
Okay, so all that sugar and pineapple.
Exactly.
And, oh my gosh.
So that was just,
strawberries.
I was already standing on the cliff, but I was putting more weight on my back for me to fall off the cliff.
Okay.
And basically that's what was happening. So when I went to the doctor to say, hey, I'm having problems, I was having severe heartburn, and in the doctor's office, they've gotten to the point where it's an assembly line. Get you in, get you out, get you in, get you out. And my doctor at the time was just like, just take some Nexium, takes care of that, and you'll be fine.
No tests or anything?
Nothing. I listened to him. Because, I mean, I'd come up from a place where you listen to what your doctor said.
Now, you were over 400 pounds. Yes. You go to the doctor and you tell him or her that you don't feel well. And they ask you symptoms. And you say, one of the symptoms is heartburn. And they say, take Nexium and send you away.
Exactly. And I also mentioned to him as well that I'm like, hey, diabetes runs in my family. My mom also had gestational diabetes when she was carrying me as well. All the information is, all the information is there, still did nothing, but I listened to him. So I went for about 6 months, undiagnosed. I
Still
just
having the symptoms?
still having the symptoms, getting worse. I had to go to the bathroom almost every 5 minutes. That's also another symptom of. I started getting online, WebMD, looking at stuff, and I'm like, okay, this looks like it's diabetes to me. Again, I go back to the doctor. No, 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 no. He's
Well, for our viewers, so you going to the bathroom a lot. You were tired.
tired. You're like lethargic. You can't. It just takes you forever to kind of get your bearings together. You're not there, so to speak. It takes a minute for you to kind of get things moving. Your urination, you're going to the bathroom a lot. You're constantly thirsty. You're hungry a lot as well. And it's just, those are just some of the classic symptoms of it. But it's easy to miss those because you're just thinking, oh, it's just me. I got to go to the bathroom. I'm just hungry. Oh, I'm just thirsty. But you have to realize that those are symptoms of. And I started figuring that out on my own and knowing I had the history in my family. And he was still just kind of like, no, you're fine. Take this. One visit, I'm literally sitting there unable to hold my head up. And he actually took a phone call on his cell phone while I'm sitting there in front of him to talk to another patient. I think it was a kid who was away at school. And he hung up from him. Then the kid's mom called. He took that call. I'm literally sitting there unable to hold my head up. And he just said, oh, you'll be fine. Never took any tests.
So is this person still your doctor?
No.
Good.
Definitely not. I handle that totally different now with a totally different attitude. But at that point, I just realized, I'm like, no, a good friend of mine who works at NIH, I went to the movies with her. And 15 minutes into the movie, I had gone to the bathroom about 20 times. And she just looked at me and said, boy, what's wrong with you? Something's wrong. You've got diabetes. And I said, no, no, no. My doctor said I got some sort of virus or something. No, no, no. She said, yes, you do. She said, you're going to my doctor. She got me into her doctor over at MedStar. Those folks are great over there. And instantly when I walked in, they were like, oh, you've got diabetes. Because I was just barely able to hold myself up.
Wow.
And they were looking like, how did you get in here? You should have been like on the floor somewhere. They took my test. Basically, you test your blood test, A1C numbers, and see where you are. We did that.
What was your sugar at that point?
My sugar was over 1,700.
Oh,
So
dear
I
God.
should've
You
been
could have
dead.
gone into diabetic shock.
Oh, I did. I went to diabetic ketosis. Because at that point in time, my body had already begun to shut down. It had gotten to the point where when I went to that doctor, I was already past that point. So they immediately called me. That was on a Monday. They immediately called me back that Tuesday to say, hey, we need you to come in. We got to get you on insulin like yesterday. I missed that phone call. So I ended up talking to them that Wednesday morning, immediately went in. They started showing me how to use needles, the insulin I needed to take, got everything going with that. But it was just too late. I was to the point where I couldn't drink water. I was surviving on, at one point, tea and maybe a peach, something that was soft that could go down.
What was going on with you? Was it making you nauseous or?
It was nauseous. I couldn't keep anything down. Literally, my body was just shutting down. It was purging everything out. Your proteins, your electrolytes, everything that your body needs, the nutrients that it needs, my body was purging it out. I was vomiting. I was urinating. Everything. It was literally shutting down.
Oh my God.
So it was to the point, and it was a Memorial Day weekend. I was supposed to go away for that weekend, cancel my plans. I was just going to stay home and drink orange juice and be okay. Yet again,
Orange juice is
bad.
not good.
Yeah, exactly.
You can tell I know a lot of people with diabetes.
So I was there, and it just got to the point where I'm literally sitting in my bathroom with my back against the tub, head over the toilet, and I'm just earling. It just gotten to the point where it was nothing but foam coming out, and it just hurt so bad. I called my doctor. I told him what was going on, and he was just like, get out of there. Go to the hospital. Tell them you're in DK. Tell them who you are. And I'm
DK.
Diabetic ketosis.
Okay. Okay.
I'm his patient. He was calling ahead to let them know I was coming. And I went, and it still hadn't hit me how severe, how close to death I was at that point.
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't until I got there, the nurse started taking my vitals. And when I saw her face, when she looked and she saw my blood level, the look of horror or fright in her face just, whoa, wait a minute. And she was just like, can you walk? And I'm like, yeah, I walked in. She's like, just stay right here. I'm getting in a wheelchair. And they took me back into the ER. And they normally take you in an open space, pull a curtain around you. They took me to an actual room. And I was like, wait a minute. That doesn't normally happen. What's going on? They immediately started connecting everything to me. And at that point, I was like, oh, I'll be going home in about an hour or so, right? She was like, no, we're waiting for a room. I was like, okay, great. I'll leave in the morning. She was like, no, you're going to be here for a minute. We're waiting for a room for you in ICU. And I said, looked at her and said, wait, is that for people who are about to die? And she just looked at me and said, basically, yes. And that's when it snapped to me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm about to die. And
you know, I'm thinking about the doctor that you went to prior to then. And that's kind of scary because people do rely very much on their doctor's advice. And I guess the lesson here is that you need to make sure that you're your own advocate and know that this is, because your body is something that you live with every day.
Oh, and you learn to listen to it. I now listen to my body. Yeah. I know what feels good, what feels bad, when something is right, when something is wrong. Today I look at I call it my medical team, as if they're employed by me.
Exactly.
If you can't work with the others I have there, because all of my doctors, I see them once every 4 months. They're all connected together. And if you cannot communicate with that other doctor, then you're not a part of my team. I'm sorry, I need to let you go and hire someone else differently. I want to be here.
So how long were you in the hospital?
About 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
For them to get everything stabilized?
Yes.
And
I was in there for 2 weeks. They took blood every hour on the hour. They gave me everything that I needed to get back. Potassium is very hard to put back in the body. The pill is huge. I was unable to swallow it at a particular point, so they started giving it to me intravenously, and it hurts. They have to give it to you with saline. So it's just a little bag, and a big bag of saline. But when the saline ends, it's nothing but that potassium. It's cold and it hurts extremely.
What, going into your vein?
Yeah, it's just painful. To the point, as I wrote in my book, I actually was awake enough to have a few choice words for one particular doctor or resident who came through, who was just checking on me, and I'm like, it's beeping. You need to change that. Yes, I'll get to you. But what's your name? Where you are? I'm like, I know who I am. It's important that you change that because that hurts. And he just kept talking, and I just screamed. I was like, well, I'm yanking this out if you don't. And he finally looked at me and realized, I'm like, yes, I know what that is. I'm okay. I'm Eric Ray. This is my date of birth. Blah, blah. I know what hospital I'm in. And he finally said, oh, okay, let's switch that out for you. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it takes one time for that to run out. You'll feel the pain, and you'll definitely recognize that.
Wow. So you were there for 2 weeks, and you went home. Were you now able to digest food or to take
At that point, I was able to digest food. My vision got better. Because when I went in, I had my contacts on. And one morning I woke up and I was like, I can't see the television. Why is it blurry? What's going on? And I totally forgot I had them on. And the nurses came in. I'm ringing a bell. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going blind. And they're like, wait, you should be fine. Everything looks good. And then one of the nurses was looking at me in my eyes. She said, you have on contacts? I was like, yeah. She said, take them out. I took them out. I'm like, oh my God, I can see the television without my glasses. So,
you know, it's interesting what does happen to your eyesight, because again, I unfortunately have people that are very close to me that have diabetes, friends or people that I know. And this one friend, I know she's had to go back to, she goes to the eye doctor incessantly, and she goes, but they're having to do surgery on her eyes because there's something that builds up behind the eye that.
It's glaucoma is one of the things that's commonly known to be.
Well, it's not glaucoma, but something happens when you have diabetes, and I can't remember.
It can wear at your I think it's your retinal. It's from the back, which is typical of diabetes. It works from inside out. So she probably was having some sort of issues with that, and that's probably what they're trying to correct. Because there are a few surgeries that you can do. It's not many, but just a few. I'm not, without really knowing, but it's hard to say what.
Yeah, but I just know that's one of the things. The other thing too that I know is that you're talking about symptoms. I know I mentioned to you that I have a brother who has diabetes because he was really bad with eating, and I mean he just thought he was Superman, eat all the wrong things and too much of it, and finally he's like, you know, my my feet are numb and all, and I'm like, you need to go to the doctor. And when he finally went, they said he had diabetes. So talk about that as a symptom. Was that something you experienced as well?
For me, it affects folks differently. Each person's diabetes is a little bit different from the other. There's some symptoms that are very similar and the same, but some are affected differently than others.
So you never experienced that?
I never had issues with my feet, and knock on wood, to this day, I still don't. But I do take care of my feet regularly. I check them myself, and when I go to see a podiatrist, I make sure that they check them out as well too. So it's something that you need to do. You need to be aware of. If you feel tingling or anything like that, or itching and stuff of that nature, then there's a problem there as far as blood circulation, and that's pretty much what happens. So it happens from your extremities, where the blood, your heart is not able to get the blood down to those portions of your body, and they're pretty much, they die because they're not getting fed from the blood. So that's what happens to you, and that's why you see so many amputations from diabetics, from their feet, their limbs. And I think it's one of the statistics is that there's almost 70% of non-accidental amputations is diabetic related.
Oh my gosh, that's really, really high.
Extremely
really high. And you know, I'm very glad to be doing this interview this morning, because when I'm out and about and I see the number of young people and people who are mature, you were talking about wheelchairs. I have seen people that are morbidly obese, where to the point of where they can't shop. They're in these little carts.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
I just, over the years, it seems like the number of carts that are available for that kind of thing seems to have increased, which says a lot about what's happening to us.
Yeah, they feel it's almost, it's better to give a person a cart and let them roll around in that, as opposed to give them the help that they need. Make them aware of what issues are happening.
But do you guess what responsibility do we bear? Because I mean, people can, that old expression, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Right. True.
What responsibility do we have? Because I'm sure, and I'm not trying to offend you, but I'm sure at some point when you were leading up to that 400 plus pounds, you know, you thought you were fine, and you probably, I'm sure every year you heard about everybody going on a diet. You're like, hey, I'm good. Yeah.
Oh, no, I did. It's just that, well, for me, it was a lack of knowledge of information about the disease. My mom was a diabetic. I knew that. I even helped her give her own injections at the time, but I didn't know anything more than that. Diabetes and awareness and education on diabetes, and as far as advancements, where you have other diseases where there's advancements that are taking place almost every year, diabetes is almost 10 years apart before there's any advancement at all with it, which is just horrific in its own for that. But
meaning that 10 years is normally the cycle people will go from the time when your body starts to...
No, 10 years, meaning that's the cycle from when there's been progress as far as trying to cure the disease.
Got it, okay.
So whereas you see all the time, there's stuff where it's like, oh, we're doing this, and we find that this works for that, and it's going to take care of this. I think the last time we heard anything real significance was stem cells research, that they found something that may be able to help diabetics. But that's been far and few. I mean, that first came out about almost 7 years ago. So it's a new day, and there's still no advancement with that. It doesn't get the light that it needs to have, but it's killing more people than a lot of other diseases that are there. So I say that to say that there needs to be a lot more done on that side of the table, and educating folks about it.
And you know, we were talking off camera too earlier. I was sharing an experience with a friend of mine who is diabetic, and the mindset of, you know, because sometimes she when I travel home, she will come to the family gatherings, and there's all kinds of food. I mean, I'm from the South, and Southern people like to eat. No, we love to eat.
Yes.
And so I know that we have a dessert table, everything that you can imagine. So it's like, and even the last gathering, it was 4th of July last year, I made, because there's so many people, I made desserts that were specifically for people who are diabetic. I made the peach cobbler and all of that, making sure that I followed certain guidelines. And ultimately, it was, no, I want to go over here. It's the whole idea, I think, of being denied something. And it was like, oh, well, I'll just take, you know, my insulin. It's like, but you can't eat that.
No, taking the insulin and still having that pie or cake or ice cream,
Yeah.
that's not the answer. It's not
No.
saving. Folks, that's why I say education is so important, because you have to realize that the medication is in conjunction with
Right.
nutrition and
keep
exercise.
to keep you normal.
So yes, exactly. So you can't say, oh, I'm still going to have that pie, but as long as I take my medicine, you're defeating the point at doing that. So it doesn't really work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to where I was, the point was educating folks to understand that food is really more. I look at food as it's a fuel to keep the body going.
That's all it is. Yeah.
You know,
You can enjoy it, but
yeah, it's just fuel to keep the body going. So, and most people, they think of it, it's a luxury. They love it. I want the most decadent thing around, and that gets promoted a lot as well too. So it's you see, it's the message that gets put out, and the message that gets put out is really not one of saying for this community. A good example. A few years ago, I was watching The View. And it was around about the same time when I first was diagnosed, and I think it was Elizabeth Hasselbeck. She was talking about what do you call it, celiac disease and gluten free. So when you have someone on that level who's constantly saying gluten free, everyone thinks it's a diet.
And you know what? It's so crazy because you see things like water is gluten free.
Exactly.
It's like,
it's
so
crazy
when did
now.
they change it?
Yes.
It's always been gluten free. You know what? On that note, let's take a quick break, and we're going to
Sure.
come right back and talk more about your journey. And then after that, we're going to keep looking over there because he has this amazing food, and it's specifically for people, or very healthy for people who have diabetes. So sit back just for a moment, and we're going to come back with more Metro Magazine.
Up to 40% of businesses never recover after experiencing a major disaster. Make a plan at ready.gov/business.
If you're just joining us, we're here with E.K. Ray, who has written a very compelling book talking about his journey with diabetes. And Ray, when we went to break, we were talking about this whole idea of people and their participation in their own good health. And I was sharing some of the mindset that people typically have when it comes to taking care of oneself. So have you, in your experience, have you found that the types of food that people eat, meaning whether it's processed or if it's done from scratch, what impact does that have? Because I have my own theory about
processed foods are really bad for you. I have a friend who's lost a tremendous amount of weight just cutting processed foods out of the diet. But as for diabetic, carbs, sugars, they're not your friends. You can have natural sugars, meaning fruit and so forth of that nature. But
even with that, you have to control it, right?
You have to control it. You have to know what fruits work or harm you more than the others.
Okay.
I have a friend who's also diabetic. Watermelon will send her over the top.
Oh, wow. I love watermelon.
It's a lot of sugar. But for me, it's cherries. If I eat a piece of cherry or eat a couple, it's done. I'm out. And so everyone has their different numbers, so to speak, what works for them. My brother is also a diabetic, and you check your numbers every morning. My numbers hover between like 79, 80.
That's pretty good.
So, yeah, I think so. I'd like to think so. But my brother's numbers, his are around 150. And he's okay with that. If I woke up and my number was 150, I would lose my mind because I'm like, something's wrong somewhere.
You don't want to go back to ICU.
Exactly. But for him, that works for him. That's the number that he and his doctor has gotten together, and that's where he is. So everyone's number is different, and that's really one of the, I guess, bad things about diabetes, because it can affect people so differently in different parts of the body and so forth. But getting back to the mindset of folks in your food, portion control is everything. You can enjoy some certain foods, just have a small piece.
And you know, that's the other thing that I find is that we have the American diet has changed tremendously, and we're just adjusting as we go up.
Yeah.
That the plates now
are huge, and
they're
fill
huge,
the plates.
and they fill the plates with food. I know whenever I go out to dinner, if I go to a place that's moderately priced, I think that people have grown accustomed to having their plates filled with food, and it's typically enough food on that plate for 2 people.
Yeah.
And normally what I do is I will, before I even start eating, I will divide
Yeah.
that
That's
that plate in half and ask for a to-go box, and I
Yeah.
eat half of it, and I'm fine.
Yeah. Oh no, a doggy bag has become my friend.
Yeah, yeah.
It's okay to get a doggy bag and take the rest of it home with you. And it's so funny. I traveled to Europe a couple of years back, and with a
Oh yeah, they
friend.
eat.
Oh, what we think they eat is not
Right.
how they actually eat. So it's totally different. So
Yeah.
if you're going to one of these Italian restaurants and you're getting all this pasta and so on, that's not how they eat very little pasta. It just, we have the perception that they eat a lot of pasta. They really don't. They just eat in courses.
Right.
And it's totally different. We eat one big plate full of all the bad stuff and just gobble it down. But no,
And you know
we're
the other
horrible
thing,
with it.
because everything has to be done very, very quickly.
It's quickly, and you want the best bang for your buck.
You
want
do.
More, you want more for your money.
And I know
Yeah.
I used to work, back in my corporate days, I used to work for a French company, so I travel abroad a lot. And I know when we went to dinner, it was usually about 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Because we would start out with a little bit of wine,
Yes.
a little bit of cheese or whatever, and but we would sit and there would be conversation. We weren't on cell phones, which kind of
You talk to the
disconnects
person
you.
in front of you. Yeah.
Exactly, disconnects you from the moment. And by the time you finished eating, I mean, if you got fish, you got a little bit of fish that would fit literally right in the middle of it, but it was so good that you didn't miss
That's it.
anything.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a rule of thumb, though, at least for diabetics. If it's more than the palm of your hand, everything that falls out, you don't need it.
Right,
All you need is
right.
what's here.
Right.
And that's how I cook. I cook that way. I measure everything. If it's more than that, you don't need it. Coming from a large family, my cooking habits used to be totally different. I used to cook as if I was cooking for 8 people.
Yeah.
But then you have to realize, it's just me. I got to realize how to scale that down. And that was also part of the problem, because if I cooked for 8 people, I thought, oh, I need to eat it. So I would. And that was just the bad way to do things.
Yeah,
But it takes time. Again, as I mentioned in my book before, there was a doctor when I was in the hospital who said, oh, this is the best thing that could ever happen to you. And I looked at him like, why would you say that to me? I'm in ICU and you're telling me this is the best thing that could happen to me. Years later now, I totally get it.
How long ago was that? For our viewers, tell.
It's about 8 years ago.
Because if you look at you look like the and the image of health right now, but you had quite a journey to get to where you are.
Yeah.
So you went back home and you were able to eat again.
Able
When
to
did you
eat.
when did you make up the mind? Because normally there's a process. You get past the critical point of where you were in ICU, and I know a lot of people who've been in ICU. They come home, they start feeling better, and gradually they go right back to their same old bad habits. What was the trigger for you that made you say, you know what, I don't want to live like that anymore?
There were 2 things. One, just before I got out of the hospital, there was a doctor who came by, and I was just huge. I was just laying there on the bed, and he said, oh, we can do liposuction for you. And I looked at him and said, I don't want liposuction. I said, no. And that just stuck in my head.
Quick fix.
Yeah. And I said, no, I think I'm okay. And then the second light bulb for me that really sent me over to realize to do this was that when I was going to my doctor, a diabetic endocrinologist, and he saw me, I said, well, what do I need to do, as I jokingly would say, to get off the needle, meaning stop the injections, because I was doing 5 injections a day just to eat and survive.
See, that right there would be enough to make me like, no, we're not going to do this.
Yeah. Oh, coming out of the hospital in ICU where they're poking you every hour on the hour, and then I have to do it myself now. That was not fun for me. So he said, lose the weight. And I said, okay. So every time I would go to him, I would have dropped 5 pounds. I've dropped 7 pounds. I dropped 10 pounds on each visit. And he just got to the point, he was like, wow. And I'm looking at him because he's one of the, what I later on finding out, he was one of the best endocrinologists in the area. And I saw his face like, you're actually doing it. It looks good. Great. And I'm looking at him going like, well, doesn't everybody do this? And he was like, no. He said, not everybody's doing it. No one, they come out, they get better, and they go right back.
Right, right.
He was like, you're actually doing what I told you to do. And I ran into him again at a health and fitness event. I just went because it was still new to me. I wanted to know more. And I saw him there, and he started waving, oh my God, come here, come here, come here. And he pulls me over, and he said, this is my patient. He's a healthy diabetic. He's looking great. He's doing this. And I said, really? Is really that many people that don't respond the way I'm responding to this? And then I just started doing more research, started looking around for more information, what I needed to do for me. it wasn't anything there. So there was stuff, little pieces here and there on the internet. So which led me to write my book because I wanted to get the information out there.
And this is a very, very good book, by the way. A great example of what you can do when you get in the right mindset.
Yeah. And I just said, well, wait a minute. How is it no one else is doing this, and why are they not doing this? So it led me to write the book, which in turn led me to start my own website, which is ekhealthyliving.com, where I wanted to find a place where you could find information for diabetes awareness, as well as just living a healthy lifestyle. So I didn't want it to be something where it's diabetes only. I want it to be something, it's for everybody, because everybody needs to live a healthy lifestyle. And it just got me to that point where I was just finding random information, stuff that you would have to you have to sit there all day, just try to find stuff for it. Whereas any other disease, a couple of clicks, boom, you got a dossier on it.
Why do you think they don't pay as much attention to diabetes as, say, cancer?
I think because they think it's a fat person's disease. Because
I know that to be right. I know a couple of people right off the top of my head who are very thin, and they
I know
they
a
have
few
type
of them.
1. Yeah.
Yeah, my brother-in-law, he was a former Marine, nice body, buffed out. He's type 2, but I think he had a bad eating habit. When he got out of the Marines, beer, wrong food, just wrong. So he's type 2. But if you look at him, you were like, well, you're supposed to be fat if you're type 2. No, it's really, you just have a bad diet. That's really what it is. And that's why I think it doesn't get the recognition that it needs to get as far as this is something we need to seriously think about. We're to the point where we have, just over 30 million people who have diabetes.
That's a lot of people.
There's 86 million who are on the borderline of being diabetic. So, I mean, if it's to the point where it's just about they want to make money off of it, you got a captive audience there of over 100 million people. But yet, you have less than 1% of Americans who have celiac disease. That's less than 1 million people, and that's a $3 billion business in just a few short years.
Wow. So you're really onto something from the standpoint that you have a lot of people out there that, because of your message, you can definitely help them.
I've spoken at different health events, churches, all different types of places where folks have come to me in bad condition. And they was, well, how are you doing this? What can I do? That was also another reason why I wrote the book as well, was to share the story and just let people know that I'm just like everybody else. I fell into the same trap. I got out of it. You can get out of it too.
And the thing that's very frightening to me is that, future generations, I see a lot of children who are, who very, very heavy, eating all of the wrong things. And I continue to applaud our First Lady who has tried to take this on. And people don't recognize, and they thought, oh, she's building a garden because it's cute. There's a message there. That garden is saying, you know what, you need to be eating whole food if we're really going to attack this.
Yeah.
And
cook at home. I always say stop using the stovetop, use the oven.
Right.
Everything doesn't have to be fried.
Right. And there are things you can do. I had a chef on, Chef Jay, last week, and he was talking about meal prep and how I remember when I did because I was cheap. And I never liked fast food because I grew up with a grandmother who she cooked everything, and I know what real food supposed to taste like. And I know when my children were young, I would on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, it was like fun time for me with the kids, and I would prepare large, meals and take them and portion them out, either stick them in the freezer or kept enough out in the fridge. So when I came home, the only thing I had to do was make a salad. And we were, dinner, stick the stuff in the oven while we did a little bit of homework. And, it took away that pressure of, worrying about what are the kids going to eat for dinner tonight? Or what am I going to feed my family?
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And it only took maybe a couple of hours. It takes a little bit of planning.
Yeah.
But you can get it done. You can cut your food bill because a lot of people think, that Mickey D's, and here I am talking McDonald's too, but I mean that dollar meal. Honey, there's a reason why that costs $1. It's not real.
Exactly.
So,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
no.
if you want hamburgers, make your own hamburgers at
Hamburgers.
home. You can do
It's
them
always
up.
the best way.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I used to
Season them
cook-
and all of that.
That's actually how I got started cooking, because I used to cook with my mom. She would do the same thing. Always a nice meal at home. By the time the kids got home, my dad got home, and there was stuff there. And as she got older, and she ended up being wheelchair bound because of her diabetes and not really taking care of it as she should have at the time. I started cooking. So she would be there. No, do this, do that. This is how you do it. Take away the salt. No, we don't need that much sugar. So it was. I learned from her, and it just kept going with me. So I like cook. But again, when you start working and you're on the go, okay, yeah, I can cook something really nice, but I only have 20 minutes, and I really want to go to bed because I got to get up at 5 in the morning. I'll just stop by the store and get a quick sandwich. I'll just do it today.
And even, you know, the food stores, if they've gotten wise, they know that people like fast food. And so they have these food bars, which are the absolute worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I know a couple of stores that I go to, you can go and they have every flavor of food you want. You know, whether you want to do Italian, Chinese, or if you're vegetarian or Indian, whatever it is you want. And they have these little food bars set up and you can go and, the food is... It's horrible.
It's not good.
Absolutely horrible.
If the food will be around a week, 2 weeks later, it's not good for you. And it still looks like, oh, it looks like you just got that out the garden. It's been here for 3 weeks.
Yeah, it has. And they treat the
yeah.
food with it. And that's one of the reasons, again, I grew up in the South and had a grandmother and grandfather who grew everything. So I keep a garden.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Even during the winter, I can go out and gather things because I put the straw over, certain kinds of things, and the root vegetables, you can still pull them and
it's so much better. Fresh food to cook it yourself at home, saute some spinach or whatever vegetables that you like. I wasn't a big vegetable person at all. Now I'll eat spinach, I'll eat broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, you name it, I'm there. And I'm like, I just find interesting ways to cook it.
Yeah, and I want to say to my audience, because I don't want those of you out there, because I know not everybody's going to go dig in the dirt. I just want to say to you that this is not a criticism, it's saying that there are other options. That's the only thing that this conversation is about. And for you to choose what works best for you. So don't feel bad if you can't get out there and dig like Miss Bonnie, because not everybody's cool with that. So, but we're going to take another quick break.
Great.
And when we come back, you have some really good looking food. I can't believe this mac and cheese that you have, but I can't wait to taste that. So we're going to take another quick break and we're going to come back and you're going to actually get a chance to see some of the wonderful food that EK's made for us this morning. So we'll be right back.
Up to 40% of businesses never recover after experiencing a major disaster. Make a plan at ready.gov/business.
And we're back with EK Ray, and we're having, you can see I have food. He's brought some mac and cheese, and when we were off camera, I was asking you, because for the benefit of those who are out there who want to know how you can make this healthy, we were talking about the fact that whole grains work.
Yes, it does.
So I'm going to put you on this is a whole grain pasta, because I don't eat white pasta. I don't eat white anything. So let me just. This is good.
Oh, good.
I make a mean mac and cheese. I told you I'm from the South. Southern people make good mac and cheese. It's very good. Now you said you put a Parmesan.
It's Parmesan. Mozzarella.
This is really good.
And it's both mild and sharp cheddar.
Okay.
And also what I do as well, I don't use whole milk.
I was about to ask you, what's your milk?
It's skim milk. And just the basics, a little salt, a little pepper, a little butter. I use a little olive oil and sea salt butter that's already mixed together. And that's it. It's very simple.
This is quite good.
Mac and cheese normally can run you almost 2,000 calories. Doing it this way, it knocks it down to almost about 400 calories per serving.
Wow.
So it's really, really healthy for you that way.
And the thing is talking about that, for the benefit of those of you who are looking at this and thinking, oh wow, I can have. The idea is not to change the ingredients and eat the same amount. The idea is to correct the amount and correct the ingredients so that you're not eating a healthy.
Moderation is key. It's always moderation is key, regardless of what you're eating. You just don't overindulge. Enjoy, but don't overdo it.
Right, right. Now, this is going to be lunch for me today. Even though you're watching this early in the morning, it's actually much later that we're taping this. So, talk about the preparation. If you want to give a quick little recipe on this.
Sure. It's really simple to do. You've got a few options because your bulk of your calories or your problem will come from the pasta. So you can use a multigrain pasta, you can use a wheat pasta, but if you really want to use just your traditional pasta, you can use that too. The calorie numbers will go up. Just be aware of that.
But what about talking about the calorie numbers? Talk about the white pasta and the fact that it's refined.
Yes, it's refined. It's so funny that you said it that way. When I was in the ICU, the nurse and my nutritionist that worked with me would help get me started. I was asking her, what can I eat? What can I eat? She just, plain and simple, if it's white, it's wrong.
That's right.
And that's and that's the model I've stuck to. So,
and even if you're not a diabetic, you don't ever want to enter that space.
Oh yeah.
It's just, if you get in the habit of doing that,
it becomes natural to you. It's not an issue. You won't even go towards the white pasta, the regular pasta. You go straight towards the multigrain or wheat pasta and just go for it. And don't be fooled by some of the other pastas that are green. What they tell you is a spinach pasta. No, it's just dye. So don't be fooled by that.
In there. Maybe they put a little spinach juice.
Yeah, maybe that's a little bit. But be aware. Read your labels when you go to the store.
Very important.
Yes, because your label, your nutrition label there, the numbers that you see there, that's what's added to that product. It's not what's naturally there. That's what's on top of that.
Wow.
So it's a huge difference. So if you see something that says it's got 42 grams of sugar, that's 42 scoops of sugar on top of what's naturally in that product.
Wow.
So it's good to be aware of that.
And one of the other things, because we're in the same space when we talk about food. One of the other things that I tell people, especially if you're talking about breads, is that flour is wheat, period.
Yes.
So you can have a wheat bread that has a little bit of molasses, something to color it.
Yeah.
So that it looks like wheat bread. I mean, flour is sweet. It's whether or not it's refined or if it's in its natural state. Has it been,
right, exactly.
all of the color washed out? And those are the kinds of things that you need. So if you're going to be looking for a bread, for instance, that's good, look for the grains. You want a whole grain as opposed to a whole wheat, because typically it won't lead you wrong.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Read your labels. It's very important. And it was also one of the reasons why I'm actually working on a cookbook. Because I want to be able to take holidays come by, Southern family as well. You always have all the traditional stuff, your mac and cheese, your banana pudding, lasagna and so forth. And I just want to because there aren't many options out there and people don't realize that you can actually make your own options. And again, educating folks about diabetes and how to eat. I'm putting together a cookbook where it has things like this in it, but it's just done in a healthy way.
And you know what? I will tell you that I've seen a number of cookbooks that have been put out for people who are diabetics. Food isn't really.
No.
I can tell you that if it's anything like what I'm tasting, and you guys know that I am real particular about what I eat. And if it doesn't taste good, I'll be polite, but I'm wanting seconds. I'm not going to because I shouldn't. But this is really, really good. So I'm looking forward to you putting that cookbook out, because if this is an indication, and look, this is beautiful. Yeah. Look at how good that looks. It looks like the mac and cheese that you're used to. That it's good for you. So
my mom always told me, rule of thumb is find a recipe, do it at least 3-4 times, 5 if you must. After that point, then you go back and you refine it, make it work for you, change the things that you need to change. But just do your research on it and know what you're changing out, what you're swapping for.
And that's really good.
Oh, I enjoyed it a lot. I've thought of my signature dish at this point, because a lot of folks will tell me, could you make your mac and cheese for me? And I've had folks say, oh, I don't do mac and cheese with skim milk. I don't do it with wheat or pasta or this pasta. I'm okay, here you go, enjoy it. And after they're finished, I'm like, oh, that was great. I enjoyed it. Could you make some for me? And da-da-da. I'm like, sure. I said, but you do realize that was made with skim milk, and that was a multigrain pasta. And they look at me like, no, it can't be. And I'm like, yeah, it is.
And you can add that fat back in with what you mentioned before, a little bit of olive oil, because it does help to bind it better.
Yes, it does.
But you can substitute taking that extra fat out and putting in a good fat. It's both fat.
Yeah.
So again, you got to keep in mind it's fat, but it's just that you're using something that's more healthy for you.
Yeah.
You have another dish over there. So what is that?
This is lasagna. And as I was saying before, never was a big person for vegetables. And it was one of the things I wanted to do. What I call my little halfway point, so to speak. It's I can't really call it a vegetarian lasagna because it does have one layer of meat in it, which is turkey.
Okay, turkey's a very good choice.
Yes.
You want to spoon some of that up? We're going to feed Henry after the show because he's sitting back there salivating. You can't see him. He loves these kinds of shows, by the way, because he gets to eat.
Henry gets to take something good home today.
He does. Oh, you've done a beautiful job. This is really, really nice. The only reason I'm not going to taste this one is I don't do turkey. That's beautiful, beautiful. And you want to...
Yeah, I have a plate over here. Just want to make sure.
I just want them to be able to see how beautiful that is. Very nice. That is... Let me just grab that. I'm going to hold it up for them to be able to see all of the wonderful layers.
Henry, that's a huge slice I just did there for you.
Henry, we have lunch for you. So we can get that other thing that we were talking about. Look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. Oh, I'm supposed to be... Look at that. Now you tell me why this would not be a good substitute. And it smells amazing. You smell that? I know we don't have smell-o-vision, but trust me, this is really, I can smell it and tell you it's a wonderful, wonderful dish. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I love, you have some spinach in here? Okay, so what are the vegetables again? Spinach?
Zucchini.
Zucchini, spinach.
Just zucchini and spinach. And then in between those two layers, there's a layer of ground turkey.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. It's very simple. A little cheddar, a little mozzarella in there as well. Ricotta cheese.
Okay.
And Parmesan.
Wow, wow.
Really simple.
Absolutely beautiful. And you know, one of the other things we were talking about off camera is the fact that there are many ways to satisfy your appetite. First of all, you got to take your time to eat.
Yes.
If you're wolfing your food down or you're inhaling it, you're not going to enjoy the experience. And part of controlling how much you eat is taking your time to eat because it gives your brain time to register. Yeah. But I love spices. One of the things that is very much prevalent in my family is high blood pressure. So I'm very, very conscious about the amount of salt. So I use lots of garlic. I love all kinds of herbs. And the fresh herbs, most of the time, they season much better than the dried herbs because it loses something. However, if you can't find the dried herbs, you can, you can't find the fresh herbs, you can absolutely use the dried ones. But talk about herbs and how important it is, especially if you get just a little bit of heat.
Yeah, if you get a little bit of heat, it helps a lot and gives you flavor. You just want to enhance the flavor of the food. You can use peppers. Get into it. There's many different peppers you can use. When you go to the grocery store and you see the orange and the yellow and the red and the green peppers, they have great sweet flavors to them.
Sure do.
Some are a little hot, a little spicy. Herbs are your friend.
Yeah, they really are.
Try them out. Go to the market. They're like the little marketplaces that you have there. We have folks selling herbs, and they can let you taste them a little bit on your tongue, and you can taste it, and you can just kind of start feeling, oh, that will go good with blah blah blah, and you can just add that to it. And it's something you should definitely do. I always tell people, stop using the top of your stove. Use the oven.
Exactly.
It's better for you that way.
And the other thing that I tell people is the seasoned salts I do not like.
Yeah, it's a lot of sodium in those.
Because if you look at the label of a seasoned salt, the number one ingredient, and you go in order. So whatever the first label is of the first ingredient, that is the predominant part of whatever it is that they've put together. So if salt is the first ingredient, most of what you see there, or what's in that container, is salt. Yeah. And so use that. So normally when I'm looking, and I never use seasoned salts, but sometimes for instance, there was a gentleman here last week and he had a line of spices. And the first thing I did was look at the label. Yeah, because if the number one thing was salt, it was like, okay, this is not. Because they use that as salt as a filler.
Oh yeah, very much.
They're looking at profit.
I will also say too, if you must use salt, use a sea salt. Right. There's also a Himalayan. It's pink salt.
I use that,
which is also very good. It's the healthier version of salt, right? Per se.
And it's in a more natural state. Exactly. Yeah, because when you start processing, they start adding other things
to
to
it.
the salt.
Yes. Again, we go
that
back
makes
to
it bad for
processing,
you.
processed foods.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, I mean, it's really good. Sometimes it's hard to find that Himalayan pink salt in the store. Just look for it. It's worth it. I look at everything I eat or consume or put together. I look at it from the standpoint that this is either going to take time off my life or I'm going to eat something that's going to put time on. So,
And you know, with a lot of people being online a lot, you can go and just Google
Yeah.
and find it that way, and just have
That's
it
a
shipped
very
to
good
your
way to
home.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
But
one of the best things to do.
so, last but not least, and boy, I'm from the South, and banana pudding. If you don't eat banana pudding down South, then you're not Southerner. So you've made a beautiful banana pudding. So you
Yes.
have a spoon. I'm going to sample just a little bit of this.
I like to call it my light version of banana pudding. If you notice, it's in a little small dish. Moderation is key.
Now, are you using those crackers that those
They're vanilla wafers, but they're reduced fat.
Okay.
So
okay.
yes, there are some products out there for you to get. You just have to look a little harder for them,
Okay.
which I think is a problem. It should be ready, available as everything else.
Okay.
But it will. You tell me.
Oh wow, this is good. Wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
I know I sound surprised because when you start fooling with things like banana pudding,
I know. Yeah, I've had a few folks tell me like, "What are you doing now? Don't mess with my banana pudding."
and you have stevia, a product that's made with stevia, Trevia, as a sweetener. This is, trust me, again, I would not lead you along. This is very, very good. So when are you doing this cookbook?
I'm working on it now.
Okay.
I'm hopefully have it out. It's got to be to my publishers by June.
Okay.
It should be out by November in time for Diabetes Awareness Month. So
And also in time for the holidays.
in time for the holidays too. Yes, very
This
much
is
so.
really, really good.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're working on that. Got a fitness event that's coming up as well too in the
Okay.
springtime. So
Okay.
EK Healthy Living is doing a lot of stuff. We want to get out there. It's really about raising the level of awareness of diabetes and educating folks and realizing that you can still eat food and enjoy food and still do it in a healthy way.
You're doing a good thing, my friend.
I'm trying to.
And I am so blessed that you're here.
Thank you.
This is very near and dear to me because I have a number of people that I care about
Yeah.
who can live differently. And I'm glad that you're helping to lead the charge for that.
Yeah.
We are done. Once again, I know you could have been any place else, but you decided that you were going to spend your mornings with us. And for that, I'm truly grateful. This is going to wrap it up for us this week. We have, if you want to find out more, please check the bottom of the screen for the website to get in touch with EK to learn. No, I'm sorry about me eating. To learn more about his healthy eating for diabetes and all of the great things that are coming up. And again, be on the lookout for that new cookbook that's coming out because I can tell you it's going to be great. So that's going to do it. And we'll see you next week, same time, and on the flip side. Take care.